Hello, I'm Stan White, here at the Air Combat Museum, located at the Old Orchard Air Park, New York. I would like you to come in with me and look at the USS BOXER, a model that I built this winter. This is a 12-foot model of the USS BOXER. It was originally built as CV21 and was launched in 1945. It's a scratch-built model made from plywood, wood strips, foam, spackle, and whatever other articles I could find around to finish it up. It's a 1/72 scale and fitted out with 27 F6F Hellcats and chance-bought Corsairs. It served in the Korean War and also into Vietnam. Later in its career, it launched Panther jets, finishing up as LPH-4. It was used as a Marine assault ship. It was fitted at that time with Chinook CH-47s and Sikorsky 34 helicopters. Now I would like to introduce another Stan who served aboard the BOXER when it was LPH-4. Stan, please tell us some other facts about actually living and working aboard ship.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, Stan. I have to say, this is an absolutely gorgeous model. It's hard to believe that somebody can scratch build this from household materials over a winter time. It's museum quality. It's just, has such incredible visual impact. I really acknowledge your artistic ability. It's just phenomenal. I don't think 1 in 10,000 people could even come close to doing something like this. Fantastic job and a great tribute to a wonderful lady, the USS BOXER. As you previously mentioned, she was born in around 1944, too late to join World War II. Was refit as a CV21 in the later 1940s, around 1947-48, I believe, and served proudly during the Korean conflict, where she was among the first of the carriers to launch and recover jet aircraft at sea, the F-9F Panther. Was involved in quite a few historic raids during the Korean conflict. Suffered casualties and quite a bit of damage during a fire while underway in the Korean conflict. Toward around 1960, I believe, at the time of another problem, the one down in Cuba, she was refit as an experimental amphibious assault ship and primarily a helicopter carrier. This BOXER started out as an Essex-class structure at the end of World War II, but unlike the Oriskany and some of her sister ships that were refit with an angled flight deck and catapults for the new age of jet aircraft. Boxer instead took another route, became an amphibious assault ship. I served on Boxer in the middle to later 1960s, and in 1969, long after I'd gotten out of the Navy, back to civilian life, Boxer was scrapped. She was decommissioned, actually, stricken from the ship's register in '69, scrapped around 1972. My time in Boxer was really very pleasant. The first thing I need to mention is I was never part of ship's company. I was never part of ship's company on any ship, in fact. I was a member of Amphibious Squadron 4, Marine Amphibious Squadron 4, under Commodore Joseph B. Drachnik. The Navy affectionately and formally referred to us as Comfibron 4. We were the flag aboard the Boxer during the period that I was on her. But I spent more time on Boxer than any other naval warship, and I was on a couple of other ones. So I kind of adopted the Boxer as my ship because I loved her and because she was the one I spent the most time on. There's nothing like the sea and nothing like being at sea on a Navy warship to really make you feel proud. And I still feel proud some 40 some odd years later. When I was on the Boxer, as a member of Amphibious Squadron 4, my duty station was up here in Radio Central, somewhere on the island. Radio Central was a rather small space with a cipher-locked door, and it was always very warm and cozy and dark and subdued, and yet somehow, I don't know, sort of romantic, if you can apply that word to a Navy warship, because of the ambiance, the feeling of being there. It was the central point of communications, going out and coming in for the Boxer. So anything that was going on, we knew about it first. I was a radio operator, and I can still smell all those Collins R390A receivers with their 30 or 40 tubes, all of them lined up in racks, cooking away 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Whenever we'd have operations and we'd have to go to general quarter stations, mine was in one of the transmitter rooms located below deck. I can't even remember where that might have been at this time. Probably somewhere up forward, I believe. Our transmitters were all keyed remotely. And this model that you had built of the Boxer circa 1947 has a lot more armament here and a lot more antennas than we had. Most of our antennas were up on the island. They were mostly all vertically polarized, and we had quite a few of them hanging off the flight deck also. They'd go into horizontal mode for flight operations, and then when we wanted to use them, we'd bring them back up vertical. As far as living on the Boxer, I found it quite pleasant. My berthing compartment was somewhere around the midships. That's probably the most comfortable place to be on a Navy ship, regardless of the size. The bow rides out of the water, and you get quite a ride up front, especially when the seas are rough. Back there, the fantail, well, there's a lot of equipment back there, not the least of which are all your screws and incredibly large drive shafts running through there. That's a little noisy. The truth is, there really is no quiet place on a Navy ship, at least not the ones that I was on back 40 years ago. But you get accustomed to the noise. After a period of time, it really doesn't bother you. I don't remember any of these 40 millimeter anti-aircraft guns here. Not at all. I do remember the twin 5-inch 38s, and for a long time, I often wondered how a 5-inch shell was designated 38 caliber. To me, 38 caliber was something that's a police-sized bullet, you know, something my son-in-law would bring to work with him every day. But I later found out that I should have paid better attention in boot camp, because apparently it was all explained. A number of my Navy buddies, their mouths just dropped open when I once discussed with them how I was confused about that, and they all had an answer right on the tip of their tongues. So I guess we're not all perfect, huh? I see you got elevators here. Yours don't go down. You got one on the edge of the deck. When these elevators were down and we weren't having flight ups, it was a great place to have volleyball game. We had the whole flight deck to sun on when we weren't doing anything more important. And you could get quite a bit of exercise on it too. It was a wooden flight deck, by the way. Wooden. Navy chow was fantastic. The cafeteria was always open to some extent because the USS BOXER LPH-4, from my perspective when I served on it, was a city that really never went to sleep. There was always something going on. The ship was broken into zones. If you were the captain or Commodore Drachnik, flag officer, or maybe the executive officer, you had a wonderfully warm-toned, wooden-hued stateroom somewhere where it was really comfortable. You had soft music piped in, and those folks did okay for themselves. If you were another officer, I seem to recall you were up in officers' country, still a great place to be. Bunking 2 to a room on the average. If you were a chief petty officer, your digs weren't quite as hot as the officers had, but you were a lot more comfortable than those of us whose ranks were E6 down through E1. Our spaces were located all over the ship, and as I said, I got lucky. Mine was pretty comfortable, fairly clean, and warm. That's another thing about a Navy ship. It's always warm. It might not be warm on deck, but once you get down a deck or two, it's always warm, it's always steamy, the humidity's pretty high, and you get used to that too. You really do. We had a ship's store on here, I remember, and every payday I used to love to go to the ship's store. There you could buy things we called gedunks. For example, Vienna sausages in little cans. That was a nice little treat. And I bought a real nice Seiko watch at the ship's store one day with about 24 different color time zones. I don't know whatever happened to that, but boy, I sure wish I had one. I see you have a clock on the wall, Stan, a ship's clock. I don't know if a lot of people know about this, but you'll notice a red area here and here at 15 past the hour and 45 past the hour. It's a 3-minute period. That was a 3-minute silent period. Those of us up in Radio Central would monitor 500 kilohertz, or kilocycles it was called back then, the international distress frequency at the time, which no longer exists today. And we'd listen for telltale hints of another ship in distress. We'd listen for an SOS. And I never heard one. I don't know of anyone who ever did hear one, but the oceans were very large, and a lot of commerce and military activity and private activity on them, and it was always somebody to be saved just about every week. We never had to save anybody from an SOS that I was aware of. So that's my little story about life on the Boxer. Once again, I commend you for an absolutely incredible job of recreating a piece of history. It certainly is museum quality. Just absolutely gorgeous. Nice job.
Well, thank you, Stan. I appreciate your interest and your knowledge of working and living on this ship. While I don't know a lot about living or working on a ship like this, it's always interesting to learn what idiosyncrasies are that come about when you're on something like this. In many of the models, I learn a lot more while I'm building them, and it's really a treat to have you here and explain.
Well, Stan, thank you very much, but don't sell yourself short. You may not have been in the Navy, but you were in the Air Force. You were a pilot. You did fly B-25 Mitchell bombers, so in a sense, let's face it, you got a real connection to a World War II ship.
Well, thank you, Stan, and I hope all of you out there enjoy this little trip through history.